Once in a blue moon, a great young player does something that transcends our understanding of what they're capable
What a move by LeBron James.
of. Something we weren't sure they had in them.
What a shot by LeBron.
And you realize as you're watching it that you're witnessing a superhero origin story. The picture of a legend in the making snaps into focus. For LeBron James, that origin story can be traced back to May 31st, 2007 at the Palace of Auburn Hills in Detroit, the night his postseason legend began in earnest in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals. For the first few years of LeBron's career, Detroit was the Eastern Conference's boogeyman. It felt fitting, since the Pistons had once stood in Michael Jordan's path too. And even at the tender age of 22, LeBron's exploits were being measured against MJ's. Much like those bad boys teams of years past, these Pistons were physical, menacing, tough as nails, and defensively dominant. To reach the promised land, LeBron, like Mike, would have to get through Detroit.
You can't get through Detroit training in no pool. You think Michael trained in the pool? No, I don't think so.
When he ran up against them in the playoffs for the first time in 2006, the Pistons were a 64-win juggernaut seeking a third straight finals berth, while LeBron's Cleveland Cavaliers were a band of so-so role players being carried by one singular talent. Still, in his first ever trip to the postseason, he and the Cavs roared back from a 2-0 series deficit and pushed Detroit to the brink of elimination in the second round, before running out of gas. In a Game 7 Pistons rout, LeBron scored 27 points. His teammates combined to score just 34. That would become kind of a theme. The following season, LeBron again dragged the Cavs to 50 wins. The Pistons, though not quite the same defensive beast after losing Ben Wallace in the offseason, once again cruised to the number 1 seed in the East. The two teams, who'd been on a collision course for most of the year, booked a playoff rematch, this time in the conference finals. The Cavs were still underdogs, but there was more pressure on them this time. LeBron came under heavy fire for a 10-point Game 1 performance in which he opted to pass to Donyell Marshall in the corner on the final play of the game, with Cleveland trailing by 2.
But you have to question LeBron James not attacking the rim in the final second.
Even though it set his sweet-shooting teammate up with a wide-open look to win the game, that decision was supposed to demonstrate LeBron's lack of killer instinct, or something. The talking heads were outraged. Would Michael have passed it? For the second straight year, Detroit jumped out to a 2-0 series lead. But for the second straight year, the Cavs responded on their home court to tie the series.
James with the fadeaway. Yes! Oh, come on!
So let's set the stage for Game 5 in Detroit. LeBron was already one of the best players in the league, and he had had plenty of memorable performances, but he hadn't yet authored a signature playoff moment. He was LeBron James, but he wasn't yet LeBron James.
LeBron James.
He was still inexperienced, playing in his first conference final. The Pistons were playing in their 5th in 5 years. They were the kind of confident veteran group that kept their cool and executed in the tightest moments, that never beat themselves, that made you earn it. Meanwhile, the second best player on the Cavs was who exactly? All due respect to Big Z, Donyell, Boobie Gibson, Larry Hughes, Drew Gooden, Damon Jones, Sasha Pavlovich, Eric Snow, and Anderson Varejao, but does that sound like the supporting cast of a finals team? No. Pulling off the upset was going to take a Herculean individual effort. Fortunately, Hercules wore number 23 for the Cavs that night. The Pistons, who'd been unable to pull away all game, managed to build a 7-point lead late in the fourth quarter. And then LeBron happened.
James with the step, and the game is tied.
In a career-altering finishing stretch, he scored 29 of Cleveland's final 30 points, including each of their last 25 over the final 6 minutes of regulation and 2 overtime periods. He dusted every defender Detroit threw at him, and scored in every which way. There were sideways drifting pull-up jumpers, contorting layups, and a barrage of thunderous dunks. For as good a defensive team as the Pistons still were, without Big Ben anchoring the backline, there was no one to meet LeBron at the rim. Jason Maxiell couldn't deter him. Rasheed Wallace was consistently late to help. Tayshaun Prince had to make a business decision. All told, during that 16-minute stretch, James missed just 2 shots. He hit 11 field goals and 5 free throws, and 10 of them either tied the game or gave Cleveland the lead. That included a game-tying three-pointer with just over a minute to play in double overtime. Which set up his go-ahead driving layup through a maze of Pistons defenders with 2.2 seconds to play. The final tally? 48 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, and just 2 turnovers in 50-plus minutes of work. After it was over, his grateful coach and teammates propped up his exhausted body as they walked off the Palace floor victorious. 2 nights later, the Cavs closed out the Pistons at home and punched their ticket to the finals for the first time in franchise history. Sure, they'd go on to get swept by the Spurs in said finals, and it would take LeBron another 5 years, a change of scenery, and a couple superstar teammates to finally win his first championship. And until that happened, there were still people questioning his big game bona fides and his mental toughness. Never mind that he produced more than his share of playoff heroics in the interim.
The ball. Lewis gets it to LeBron for 3 for the win. Yes! LeBron James!
But anyone without a selective memory will tell you that Game 5 was when LeBron established himself as more than just a great player. That was the performance that cemented him as a legend. And it was only the beginning. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.